Hai, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I am Nur ENG2603 binti Muhammad Zamani, SEC 2307012, and I am going to interview someone from outer circle country. So, outer circle country is a country where English is not spoken natively, but it is still maintained as an important language for communication, and English is considered as second language for the country. So my interviewee's background is, her name is Nur Aina Bila, and she is 20 years old, and currently she's doing part-time job and volunteer to support her studies, and she was a former diploma student in culinary, and she is from Brunei. So let's jump into the interview session. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I am Nur ENG2603 binti Muhammad Zamani, and I am going to do an interview regarding English in your country. So, may I know what's your name and what's your background?
Hi, my name is Nur Aina Bila, and I am 20 years old, and I am currently doing part-time and volunteer job, and I am from Brunei.
Okay, so I think we can start the interview now. So first of all, how and when did English come to your country?
So Brunei was protected by British in 1847. British people came to Brunei and used English. Even after that, it's become an important second language in my country.
I see. So there is a history behind how English comes to your country. Okay.
Yes.
And the next question is, how does English develop in your country?
English grew in Brunei because it was taught in schools and used in education and all the government. Now, many people use English for working, studying, and even in the technology, which is social media.
So English has become the official second language in Brunei, is it?
Yes.
I see. And um, may I know in which aspect is English being used in your country?
English was mostly used in which aspect, which is education, which is study, schools, business, and all over the media and technology, as I mentioned earlier, social media. That's it.
Okay, so may I know which aspect that widely used in English?
Sorry?
May I know which aspect that widely used English language?
The communication.
As you mentioned that education and technology, whatever itu, there is there any specific aspect that English is being used in any aspect? No?
The education, I guess.
The education. So
Government, yes.
teachers and students, most of them use
Most
English.
of them use English for the daily talk with English, so everyone understand. Because not everyone can understand Malay in my country.
I see.
Mostly at the schools.
The schools. And what about the political aspects, economic?
It was the same as it's the same. Everyone use English for daily use.
I see. But still remain the official language like Brunei.
Yes.
Okay. So the next question is, what benefits do you get from usage of English?
The benefits.
Yes, of being English in your country.
I'm sorry. Can you repeat?
Okay. What benefits do you get from using English in your country?
The communication, because not everyone can understand Malay and Brunei words. So English can help globally to understand the communication and what they're talking about. Easy to get a job, as one of the requirement is the one who can speak English. That's one of
Wow.
the benefits.
Wow, that's interesting. You guys cannot
Yes.
speak in Malay and Brunei at macam.
Yes.
Yes, okay. So you guys use English
Yes,
most of the
because
time.
most of the time, and now it was a highly requirement in job, the one who
I
can speak
see.
English.
I see. So there's a high demand for, and then opportunity for someone who are able to speak English, right?
Yes, true.
I see. So the next question is, how does English give a negative impact to your country? Is there a
um
negative?
the the loss of language skill, which is mother language, Brunei, as English become more dominant and high rank in my country. So there's a risk that younger or the new generation right now may not develop strong Malay and they understand English more than the original language in my country, which is Malay.
I see. So your official language is in the danger since English has come to your country, right? So
Yes.
I see. So moving on to the next question. Are there any words or phrases in your language that do not have direct translation in English? And could you provide the examples?
I have two example, which is makan angin. So in English, if we translate makan angin is eat wine, eat wind, but it is used to describe going out to relax, often in the nature or the beach. There isn't an exact English meaning in
Translation.
makan angin.
I see.
And also, one of it is sia-sia. So as we know, sia-sia is something like wasted or useless, but it often carries a like deeper disappointment in the or regret something has been done. It can also, if there's something it's done with real purpose or benefit. So like ada two meaning.
What is it again?
Sia-sia.
Yes, yeah.
So like sia-sia was like if you translate it means wasted or useless.
Oh,
But
yes,
actually,
yeah.
but it's actually something about disappointment in my country.
Could you provide me another example? Because we use like our language is kind of the same. It's the same. So I think I want. Do you have any words?
Mm. You want another example?
Yes, because sia-sia and makan angin is the same as Malay in Malaysia. So I think I want another example that you could provide for me. Is there any example?
Because the language in Malay was a bit same with your language, so it's basically the same, and I guess there's no other example.
So Brunei's language is Malay.
Yes,
Oh, I see.
the first language, and the second was English.
Okay. Okay, it's okay. So the next question is, do you often mix words from your language when speaking in English? If so, which words are commonly being used?
I have three example. First one is boleh, boleh. In Malaysia, they were called boleh, but in Brunei, we slightly changed it to bully. So like, kalau in sentence, it is, I can you boleh do it for me? So like, can you do it for me? But we add the bully. So like, it was mixed, English and Malay.
Okay.
Okay. And then I have lurus. Do you know
Lurus.
lurus?
Lurus like straight like that.
Ya, kalau di sini lurus was like a right thing to do. So like kalau
Okay.
in sentence, it was Yes, lurus, I agree. Like that.
Oh,
Yes. And also macam. So
macam.
kalau if macam was like kalau in sentence was something macam this and this and this. Oh, so like it it was in between the English sentence something macam. So like in for example, we're talking about food. So it was like, something macam candies, fast food, like that. So like it
I
was
see.
the macam was always there. I
So,
even use it for my daily. I mix my English and Malay too.
uh, so all the Brunei people use uh, that lah.
Yeah, we call it Manglish.
Yeah, English. I am quite amazed when you say the second one, lurus, lurus. I agree
Yeah.
because Malaysian isn't familiar with that word. We often use lah at the back. We always add lah at the back.
Okay.
Okay
Because
lah.
kalau here, lurus was something betul. Betul.
Mm.
Tapi in Brunei, we call lurus.
Oh, so you guys don't use betul. You guys use
No,
lurus.
lurus. We
Lurus,
don't use betul here. Betul,
Lurus. Lurus.
lurus. Cuma kalau if betul tu was like a very, very Malaysian word. We don't use in Brunei. Brunei was just lurus. Lurus.
I see. This
Lurus,
is the
lurus.
new. This is the
Yes.
new things. This is the new things. Okay.
Yes, very nice.
Okay. So the next question is: are they English words that consider offensive that are inappropriate in your language?
Uh, yes, there is some, which is obviously all the bad words like swearing, all the racist word, all the like the slur something words, and some insensitive religious reference and any offensive slang. All the bad words is not very used commonly in here because for us it was very offensive.
So all the bad words from English is considered the bad words in Brunei too.
Yes, it's considering as very offensive.
Let's see. Could you provide me examples?
Like for racist, I'm sorry at first.
It's okay. It's
Racist was
okay.
like nigga. Nigga was very offensive here because in Brunei there is also a lot like a black people here. So when they hear that, it was also for them very offensive, and they might think that Bruneian people is like kurang ajar. Like they will thought a Brunei people is a bad people, when actually we're not. Just we don't know the real. It was English kan, like we don't really know the real meaning. So we are learned to not use any of the words. And if swear kalau bad words, all the swearing like stupid, bad.
Yeah, but I think we have the same similarities. Like in English, big is considers normal, like a normal word. But when it comes to in Malay, it translated as babi, right? And then people
Oh
think
yes.
babi is very very serious, like
Yes, true.
So Brunei is the same, right?
Yes, Brunei also have. Oh yeah, same like babi also have.
It's okay. It's okay. This is educational purposes, so we're
Also,
fine.
there's also a weird one. In Brunei, we have a swearing word, but if you translate to English, it was very funny, which is egg. You know egg?
Oh,
Telur,
can
you
you
know telur?
spell? Can you spell it?
EGG.
A?
Egg. Yes.
Oh, I see.
In Brunei, talur is something very offensive word. It was like swearing. Talur, Connie, like that. It was a swearing word too.
Oh, so how do you guys like speak in English and you guys want the eggs? How do you guys use that in sentence?
If if in English it was for us, it was normal. Like, can you cook the egg for me? The egg. But if we translate back to Malay, Brunei people always use the word talur as a swearing word. I get it oftenly, and I hear it always. I always hear people use talur for swearing.
Okay, so may I know how do you guys um translate egg in Brunei? Is it talur to telur or
Yeah.
talur?
So like in Brunei, it has two meaning. For like a positive people, obviously for them it was a food, telur, egg. But for the one that have like negative thinking, obviously for them it was a very, very offensive word, which is swearing, bad word.
I see. Wow.
Also, it was also from the tone ourselves. So like if we apa, speak the word talur slowly, so people won't find it offensive. But like if we like talur like that, so they will thought that we swear them.
I see. So it depends on how you
How you speak.
sound. Okay. And then the last question is, does your language have slangs that have been influenced by English, and what are they?
I think it was okay. Okay lah. A combination of the English word from okay and the Malay from lah. Like used to show some agreement, I think, like something. And also thank you. Thank you is very commonly used in all the countries, right? Like thank instead of terima kasih, and Brunei was like obviously always say thank you.
I see. So, okay, since you say okay lah, right? You said that okay lah means you want to show the agreement, right? So, um, in Brunei, is it okay lah translated as lurus lah?
Yes.
So, so you guys
It was
use okay
it was
lah.
almost the same. Almost the
Almost the
same.
same. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So.
Okay lah, boleh lah. Also boleh also and lurus was kind of the same also. Boleh, lurus. Okay. Kalau like if the sentence have lah, so it was mostly like boleh or lurus. You can use any of the words.
I see. So, in Malaysia, we use if you know, you know.
Yes.
Just like if you know, you know, and then
Yes.
translates it as yang tahu je yang tahu je tahu.
Is it
Right.
the Y
Yes.
YTJ?
Yes.
Oh, okay,
YTJ.
okay.
Does Brunei use that too?
For me, in my opinion, in my point of view, we are mostly being influenced by the social media, which mean was like social media was all over the country. So what's the like Malaysian influence to say if you know you know or yang tahu je tahu. So Brunei people also use it because it was kind of a trend in social media. If you know you know, yang tahu je tahu. We use it some of the new generation, obviously, like the Gen Z.
So Malay and Brunei is kind of the same, right?
Yes.
I see. Is there any example or slangs that you could share?
Yes. I think yes, I have one. Brunei slang.
Yeah, Brunei slang that have been influenced by the English language.
Wait. You mean like using English words?
Like in Malay, we use sporting means something that someone is into sports, right? But in Malay context, we use sporting as someone who is easygoing and someone is very approachable, something like that. So I think I want to know is Brunei have the slangs that have been influenced by the English? I don't know.
Let me think. Wait, sorry. Oh my god, blank.
I think Brunei and Malaysia share the same slang, right?
Yes, for me, there's no difference since both were Malay. So I think both influence the same word from English. I guess.
Yeah. Okay, so I think that's all for the interview session. Thank you for spending your time with me and have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you, and sorry if I have a mistake.
It's okay. This is just a casual interview session, so don't take it very, very serious.
Serious.
Serious, I don't know. But
Okay.
this is just a casual interview session.
At least you learn something about Brunei
Yeah.
from English.
Yeah.
At least like stick it.
Yeah, but and our accent is actually different. Like we don't
Different
have the
from,
same pronunciation.
yeah, but both country can understand well I think the words. Some.
But may I know, is English has officially registered as second language in your country?
Yes, it is already registered as a second language and a very important one. As I mentioned, it was required in jobs, the education, school, and government.
I see. So, but you guys use English in your daily life, right?
Yes, I use English in my daily life, even when I talk with my families, friends, or all the people out there, the restaurant, for example.
Um, I mean, like, so you guys don't use Malay frequently?
Mostly for me, in my opinion, in my point of view, Malay was like low key decreasing right now. But for the like old generation, they obviously use Malay more. But for the generation nowadays, like the now people, like the young teenage people, they use English, and also the wait, sorry, the one we used was Manglish. We mix the Manglish, the Malay and the English, like that. We oftenly use for daily talk Manglish, Malay, also English, also both.
So Brunei language, is there a language that called Brunei language or is it Malay?
No, it's Malay.
It's Malay. Okay.
There's
So
no
you guys,
specific Brunei language. It's just Malay, Melayu.
so you guys have a Malay language and then English language, right?
Yes,
Yeah, I see.
and all the district language.
Okay, district language.
Yes.
So we don't have a lot of differences, Malaysian and Brunei. So I guess that's it. Right.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you again for spending your time tonight with me. And I'm sorry if I have miscommunication with you.
Yeah, it's okay.
So,
We
I'm
both
kind
learn.
of, yeah, because I'm kind of nervous right now.
Same. It's okay. We both trying to learn a new thing together.
Yeah. And I hope.
So, for the first question, how and when did English come to your country? In Brunei. So, my respondent said that Brunei was a country that being protected by the British people in 1847, and that's how English is being used in Brunei since today, and English is officially registered as second language in Brunei. So moving on to the next question, how does English develop in Brunei? So my respondent said that English developed in Brunei through education, where teachers and students need to speak in English, and the kids need to be exposed by English language, because in Brunei, English is considered the best language that brings a lot of opportunity for them. And then that's why English is being used widely in Brunei, because English is considered to bring a lot of chances in job or anything in Brunei. For the third question, my respondent said that English plays important role in education because they want to teach the kids to speak in English very well, to communicate in English very well, because they think that English can bring a bright future for these kids. And also English involved in businesses, technologies and media and political in Brunei, because they think English is a language that people in Brunei can understand better, and it is also people in Brunei also can communicate with people around the world. So the benefits of using English in Brunei is it helps them to communicate and understand better, because they most of the time use English in daily life, and English is also one of the job requirements in Brunei too. So people who are able to speak English is highly demanded in job sectors in Brunei. While the negative impact of using English language in Brunei is the official language in Brunei, which is Malay, is slowly fading because English has become the dominant language in Brunei. So the young generation is not very familiar and couldn't understand well Malay, but the older generation still use Malay in Brunei. So it is still being practiced by the older generation only, not the young generation, because they tend to speak in English in daily life. So the words in Brunei that don't have direct translation is mostly idioms. For example, makan angin, if it is translated in English, it will be translated as eat wind, but the meaning is actually strolling around while enjoying the scenery. And the next example is sia-sia, which means disappointment or something wasted or useless. So these two examples don't really have exact translation in English. So this idiom, because it is idiom and it has no literal meaning in English. So for the next question, people in Brunei do mix some of their words in English conversation. For example, boleh. Boleh means can, and if it will be in a sentence, it will be can you boleh do it for me, which means can you do it for me. And can is also means boleh, and boleh is also means can. So they are the same, but they put in a same sentence to show something that can you do it for me, like that. And then the second one is lurus. Lurus means right. Like for example, yes, lurus, which means I agree, which means the agreement. And the last one is macam. Macam means like. For example, in a sentence, something macam this or this. So it shows that they want to show example. So the next question, English words that is considered offensive in Brunei language is mostly the bad words, the swearing words in English is obviously offensive in Brunei words, and they are not practically being used in Brunei since it is offensive. For example, the words nigger is not being used, is restricted in Brunei, because in Brunei there are also black people, so it sounds offensive to them, so they don't use it. And there's another example. For example, an egg, which means telur, but it also has a different meanings in Brunei, which means something that bad. But it depends on how people pronounce it and different contexts. So if you want to use in cooking context, so it means an act and normal like a food. While if you want to use for to show something bad, and it means something bad. So it depends on how you use it in different contexts and how you pronounce it. So the next question is, the slangs that have been influenced by English in Brunei is okay, that means to show something's right. And the next one is thank you, to thank someone. But there's a phrase in English which means if you know, you know. But in Malaysia, it translated as yang tahu je tahu. And people in Brunei also use that term. So Malaysia and Brunei share the same slangs that have been influenced by the English.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Nur Izhani binti Ahmad Fairuz and my ID number is SEC230700241. So let me introduce you to my interviewee. His name is Idris Rama. He is 21 years old and he is from Kenya. He is currently in Malaysia studying in electrical engineering at University Technology Petronas. Assalamualaikum and good evening. My name is Nur Izhani binti Ahmad Fairuz. You can call me Hani. I am student from College Professional Mara Sri Skandar, and I'm going to conduct an interview session with you regarding my subject, which is Varieties of English Language. So can you give me a brief overview of your background and where are you from?
My name is Idris Rama. I'm from Kenya, and I came to Malaysia a few years ago. This is my second year, and I'm currently doing electrical engineering in UTP. Yeah, first year, third semester.
Okay. So the first question, how and when did English come to your country?
That's a good question. English came to our country back in the colonial eras, whereby, for facts, our country was colonized by British, and so back in, I would say, 70s, they came, and after colonizing us, some of them came for industrial purposes. They built schools, and it started like small initiative until it went all around Kenya. So most of the schools, they're taught in English.
Okay, I see. Alright, so for the next question, how does English develop in your country?
English, there is like effects of English everywhere if you go to Kenya, based on business, based on the apps that the government and the people are using in Kenya. They're all based on English, unlike the other language. And it has helped bring more influence and tourism. It's kind of easier for the tourists to come and communicate with us. So we get a lot of revenues from the tourism. So.
I see, alright. Moving on to the next question. In which aspects is English being used in your country?
English is used like everywhere. I would say like 90%. So based on aspects, I would say let's say schools, it's used there, and doing businesses, marketing, yeah, and all that.
Okay, so the next question is, what benefits do you get from the usage of English in your country?
There's a lot of benefits using English, and one of them is just the mobile phone. So my language hasn't been integrated well in the usage of mobile phones. So I've seen people who don't understand and speak English. They have a hard time in using their mobile phones, and you know, mobile phones nowadays is like can't live without it. It's incorporated with our lives, so it helps a lot. And going to the market and buying stuff online and all this. So we use English.
Okay, so how does English give a negative impact to your country?
The negativity in English comes when, let's say, our neighboring countries. Since my country lies in the East African region, so the language we speak, which is called Swahili, it's also spoken in like countries like Tanzania, our neighboring country, countries like Uganda, countries like Congo. So when it comes to English, which came afterwards, so our language we don't use that much. That's why our neighboring countries, they usually tell us that we are boasting since we speak in English and all this, and we are losing our identity as Kenyans. But then it works both ways because we still have our language and English. But yeah, there's a lot of negativity towards them.
So like it's a mixed language of your language and English.
Yeah, kinda. There's also that one. They call it Sheng, which is Swahili English. So they mix English and Swahili.
I see. So
But our neighboring country, they haven't mixed it with any. So that's why they're accusing us of like why are you using English every time.
I see. The next question, are there any words or phrases in your language that do not have direct translation in English? If so, which words are commonly mixed?
We have quite a number. Okay, there's a word like most of the words are like for the ones that you express shock or joy. So like we have a word called salala. So salala is said when someone is in shock, like you heard about something. But then tracing back on the origin of this word, I think it came from Arabic because the Arab also came in our country, so they mix a lot with our language. So finding the translation in English is kind of pain.
So the word that you just mentioned, it doesn't have a direct translation in English, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because based on when we use it and how we use it, I haven't seen it in like English.
Okay, for the next question, are there English words that considered offensive that are inappropriate in your language?
Take a minute for that. Not that I can think of, but maybe there is. I'm not quite sure. Yeah, because we don't have. I don't think we have.
You don't have any like word from your language that considered offensive, and to some people they don't have any idea about the words. So but in your country it is considered as offensive words.
Well, maybe the other way around. Like I would say, like there's a term in America, English world, where they use like the N word.
Yes.
So most of the people think that all countries, let's say in Africa, they use the N word, but it's false. Since in my country, some people don't even know it. So it's something very different here. It's usually used in the West, but in our country, it's something else.
So like in your country, they don't have that much of education about the N word, is it?
Some do, but we don't use it at all.
I see.
Because I feel like it's not in our cultures.
Okay, so moving on to the last question. Does your language have slangs that have been influenced by English? And what are they?
Yeah, okay, so my language is very diverse. So we have words from English, Arabic, some words from Portuguese, and let's say we have but the words we are using from English, they don't have the same meaning as in English, but the meaning is kind of similar. Like if you ask someone, how have you been doing? In my language, like uko vipi, they will say niko fiti. Fit comes from English, which means like someone is like physically fit, you're okay, or something like that. But in my language, it means like I'm good. So we say fiti.
I see. Okay, we have come to an end of our interview session. So thank you for joining me and willing to do the interview with me. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your time as well. Yeah.
Thank you. Assalamualaikum.
Salam.
The first question is, how and when did English come to your country? The interviewee said that English came to Kenya because of British colonization in the 1970s. Some of the British arrived for industrial purposes, but later they built schools across Kenya where these schools are taught in English and became the main language of instruction. For the second question, how does English develop your country? English influence is widespread across Kenya. The use of applications in Kenya is primarily based on English. It has developed through business, marketing, and tourism. The influence of English also makes communication with tourists easier, which helps generate revenue for the country. For the third question, in which aspects is English being used in the country? English is a widely used language in Kenya, with approximately 90% of communication happening in English. It is commonly used in schools, marketing, and business, making it a crucial part of everyday life. For fourth question, A, what benefits do you get from the usage of English? The widespread use of English in Kenya allows people to communicate easily, especially when going to the market to buy goods. English also plays an important role in using mobile phones and is essential for government operations in the country. For the fourth question B, how does English give a negative impact to your country? A major drawback of using English is that Kenyans do not use their native languages as much. Additionally, neighboring countries perceive Kenyans as boasting because they frequently use English. Some also argue that Kenyans are losing their cultural identity due to the dominance of English. However, both Swahili and English are used in Kenya, balancing the situation. For the fifth question, are there any words or phrases in your language that do not have a direct translation in English? The word provided is selala. Selala is used in Kenya to express shock or joy. It originates from Arabic, as Arabs historically came to Kenya. The interviewee notes that there is no exact English translation for this word. For the sixth question, do you often mix words from your language when speaking English? A common example is the Swahili word ati, which expresses surprise or disbelief. For example, we were chit-chatting for a while. Ati, he said he didn't understand a bit of what I said. So strange. This shows how Swahili words are often mixed into English conversations in Kenya. For the seventh question, are there English words that are considered offensive or inappropriate in your language? The N-word is considered offensive in Kenya. However, the interviewee explains that some people in Kenya are not fully aware of its impact, as it is not commonly used in the country. For the last question, does your language have slangs that have been influenced by English? Kenyan slang is diverse, incorporating words from English and Portuguese. A common phrase in Kenya is "Uko vipi," means "How are you?" and the other person will respond with "Niko fiti," means "I am good." The word fiti comes from English, derived from fit. This demonstrates how English has influenced Swahili slang in Kenya.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Mushafi Alia binti Muhammad Azwan. I am from the EC5C. My ID number is SEC2307024. So let me introduce my interviewee. So his name is Hitin Pedro Silvestre Celesio. He is 21 years old and currently studying at University Technology Petronas. Also, he is from Mozambique, which is an outer circle.
Hi, my name is Rushafi Alia binti Muhammad Azwan. I am from College Professional Marasir Iskandar Perak. I am from class DC5C. Today we will conduct an interview session. So first of all, can you please introduce yourself a little bit?
Yes, my name is Ethan Pedro. I'm from Mozambique and I'm 20.
I see.
Yes.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
So we will start with the first question. So the first question is, how and when did English come to your country?
English came to my country around one I don't know when because we were colonized by Portuguese. So the neighbor country, which is South Africa, they were colonized by English.
So next question, how does English develop in your country?
Develop in the schools teach English, and in the university, also in the university. Yeah, I think that's two things in the schools and the university. Also in the streets, you can learn or speak English because the neighbor country speaks English. Yeah, like South Africa, the neighbor country. There are a lot of South Africans in Mozambique. So the how can I say, the people, the vendors in the streets, they able to speak English because the most of the customers is from South Africa. Then they able to speak English, but a little bit.
So moving. Oh, by the way, I mean the question is how English developed in country. Like just now you mentioned that it colonized by your neighbor country, right? So can you
Yes.
elaborate a little bit about it?
Sorry, I didn't understand.
My question is how English developed in your country. Means that is it English was is it English was come to your country because of because of it has been colonized?
No, we were colonized by Portuguese. Yes, our main language is Portuguese, but we able to speak English because the neighbor country. We do a lot of business and business, also trips from both sides. Mozambique to South Africa, South Africa to Mozambique.
Then, so moving on to the next question. In which aspects is English being used in your country?
I think in tourism, tourism is the main sector using English because we have a lot of hotels and places that people likes to go, like foreign people, like to England, South Africa. Yes, all of our neighbors were colonized by English. Then when them come to our country, we need to speak English. You know, even in schools. In schools, we have like international schools, like high schools. Yes, people
So,
people speak English there.
oh, I see. So, do you think what benefits that you get from the usage of English?
Yes, I think English is the most language with with many people speaks English, is universal language. Then it's important to know how to know English. And yeah.
So, how does English give a negative impact in your country, do you think?
I think the impact is neutral, because we we already have our language, you know, like Portuguese. We speak Portuguese. Then English is like a neutral language. Does like don't make difference if you know, or if you know, or if you're not.
So, moving on to the next question. Are there any words or phrases in your language that do not have a direct translation in English? Could you provide some examples?
Uh, Words in my language that sorry, I didn't get the question.
Are there any words or phrases in your language, which is Portuguese, right? That do not have direct translation in English?
I think yes. Some of things you only 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 see in Mozambique, like specific fruits, vegetables, you can see only in Mozambique. Even I don't know how to translate in English, but you can say like
You can
can I
you
say
can mention you can mention the words,
the
then
words?
you can mention the words of that phrases, and
Uh-huh.
you explain a little bit the meaning.
Okay. Mm, I say like let me think. Mm, uh yeah, it's hard to I know words that doesn't have like translate in English, but uh, how can I say, like junior?
So what is that meaning?
Junior is like common, the common form to call like how can I say, like your mother, then your like your father and son have the same name, then the father is like Ethan, and the son is Ethan Jr. No, did you get?
Yes.
Yes.
So, do you often mix words from your language when speaking English? If so, which words are commonly you mix?
I think bro. I use a lot of bro. Yes, which means brother, but is like short form of brother. Uh, Even in Mozambique, we mix like our language in English in the street. Yeah, like youngs prefers like to mix English in and Portuguese. So we speak a lot of like short forms of English, like bro, uh, mm,
From your language.
from my language.
Yeah.
Ejo,
Is that
ejo, ejo is like you.
oh?
Yeah, ejo.
So, are there English words that considered offensive that means that inappropriate in your language?
Sorry, I didn't get.
Are there any English words that considered offensive that are inappropriate in your English? Means that in English, it is normal words, but in your language,
Hmm?
it may be inappropriate words.
Mm, I think no, because a lot of people knows like understand English. They they don't know to speak, but they understand English. Yes. So I don't know if they have like words can be offensive or inappropriate, because a lot of people understand English but don't know how to speak.
So, our last question, but not least, does your language have slangs that have been influenced by English? And if so, what are they?
Mm, I think we have a few words influenced by English, such as mm, such as how can I say? Mm, Hey, yeah, this question is hard to think. No, but the colors, a few colors like no, colors not. uh, Can we like skip this question? Like
It's
for
okay.
thing,
So
yeah,
you didn't have any idea of it.
yeah, I don't have an idea
Okay, so
of the word.
that's all for our interview session. Uh, I'm so sorry if there are any inconvenience things. And so I would like to say thank you so much for your cooperation.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, you're welcome.
Based on the interviewee's response, he are unsure about the exact timeline of English arrival in their country. However, he believes that English influenced their country due to its proximity to South Africa, which was colonized by the British. This suggests that English spread indirectly rather than through direct colonization. The interviewee emphasized geographical and colonial connections but doesn't provide specific historical details or key events that contribute to the language presence. While their explanation highlights an important factor, it could be strengthened with more precise historical context. The interviewee stated that English is not the main language in their country, as Portuguese is the official language. However, it is widely taught in schools and universities and commonly spoken in daily life due to the presence of South Africans. Street vendors also learn English to communicate with their customers, and the business and tourism sectors further promote its use. So, this response highlights the practical reasons for English usage in the country. Rather than being a colonial legacy, English appears to have spread through education, trade, and tourism. The mention of South African influence suggests cross-border interactions play a key role in language adoption. However, the response doesn't address historical factors such as when English education began or whether government policies support its growth. Adding these details will provide a more comprehensive understanding of English role in the country. The interviewee highlighted that tourism is the main sector where English is widely used, as many accommodations attract foreign visitors. Additionally, students, especially those in international schools, use English in their education. This response emphasized the functional role of English in the country, particularly in tourism and education. The presence of foreign visitors likely drives the need for English proficiency in hotels and other accommodations. Similarly, international schools contribute to English usage among students, indicating its importance in academic settings. However, the response doesn't mention whether English is used in government, media, or business, which could provide a more complete picture of its influence. Adding historical context about when English became prominent in these sectors would further strengthen the analysis. The interviewee believes that English is important because many people use it in daily life to communicate, especially with visitors from neighboring countries. So this response highlights the practical significance of English as a communication tool, particularly in interactions with foreigners. It suggests that English functions as a lingua franca in the region, facilitating cross-border communication. However, the response lacks details on whether English is formally recognized in business, education, or government, including information on official policies or historical influences would provide a more comprehensive understanding of its role in the country. The interviewee sees English as having a neutral impact since Portuguese remains their main language. He believes it is up to individuals to choose which language they prefer to use. This response suggests that English, while present, doesn't significantly affect the dominance of Portuguese in the country. The interviewee's view implies that language choice is a personal preference rather than a societal or governmental push toward bilingualism. However, the response doesn't explore whether English is gaining more influence over time, particularly in education, business, or media. The interviewee mentioned that some things are unique to Mozambique, such as specific fruits and vegetables found only in the country. He also provided an example of the term junior. The interviewee mentioned that some things are the words that are unique to Mozambique, such as specific fruits and vegetables found only in the country. He also provides an example of the term junior, which is used when a father and son share the same name, making the son as a junior version of his father. So this response highlights cultural uniqueness in Mozambique, emphasizing that local produce and naming traditions. The mention of exclusive fruits and vegetables suggests a rich agricultural diversity, which could be an important part of the country's identity.
The explanation of junior reflects a naming convention that, while common in many cultures, is noted here as part of Mozambique's societal norms. However, the response doesn't delve into another aspects of Mozambican culture, such as tradition, language, influences, or historical background which could provide a broader cultural perspective. The interviewee commonly used the term bro, a shortened form of brother. He also mentioned that in Mozambique, people often mix Portuguese and English in their speech. For example, he shared that Ejo means you in their language. This response highlights the influence of informal English expressions in everyday speech, particularly among younger generations. The use of bro suggests a globalized linguistic trend influenced by media and social interactions. The mixing of Portuguese and English indicates a form of code switching, which is common in multilingual societies. However, the response doesn't explore whether this mixing is more prevalent in certain groups, such as younger people or urban populations. The interviewee stated that there are no inappropriate words when translating English into their language. While many people in Mozambique understand English, they may not be fluent speakers, even though. This response suggests that English translation in Mozambique do not carry significant cultural or linguistic taboos, which may indicate a flexible or neutral approach to language adaptation. The mention of widespread understanding but limited fluency implies that English is present but not deeply embedded in everyday speech for many people. Some of it yes, but some of it no. However, the response doesn't explore the reasons behind this limited fluency, whether due to education systems, social factors, or exposure to English media. The interviewee found it difficult to think of an answer to this question, but later he provided examples of words in their language that were influenced by English, such as calma, calm, bebe, baby, animal, I don't know how to pronounce it, but animal, and caro, car. So this response highlights the presence of loanwords in the interviewee's language, showing how English has influenced vocabulary, possibly through globalization, media, or historical interactions. However, the words provided are also present in Portuguese, suggesting that the influence may stem from Portuguese rather than directly from English. This raises an interesting linguistic question about whether these words entered the language independently from English or through Portuguese as an intermediary.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nurkalisa Suvia binti Muhammad Yasin. I'm from DEC5C. My ID number is SEC23070042. So let me introduce my interviewee. So her name is Pia Obermeier, an 18 years old girl, and she lives in Nuremberg, Bavaria in Germany. So she is currently studying for a bachelor's degree in international economic studies.
Pia, and I assume good afternoon because that was 2:43 p.m. Okay, so
Yes.
thank you. Thank you so much for joining this interview. So before we start, let me introduce myself. My name is Nurkalisa Sofia. You can just call me Kalisa. And I am an English communication student from College Professional Mara at Seri Iskandar Perak. So before we start our first question, will you introduce yourself and brief a little bit about your background?
Yes, of course. My name is Pia Obermeier. I'm 18 years old, and I'm from Nuremberg in Bavaria in Germany. And I study international economic studies in my first semester as a bachelor degree.
Okay. Okay, so let's begin our first question. Um, so first question is, how and when did English come to your country? So was it introduced through colonization, trade, or cultural exchange?
I'm being honest, I had to Google that one myself because I actually didn't know. But it like German and English, we have the same background, so it's always been like a very
two languages that are very close to each other, and a lot of words are very similar. But I think the time when English and German, or when Germany really adapted English as a language, or English swapped over to Germany, was during the First and Second World War.
Okay, so we move on to our second question. So how does English develop in your country?
That's a very interesting question. Well, we started learning English already in like in our elementary school, like in third grade, and we keep on learning it through our high school, or what you know as high school, and it developed. Oh, I think it developed very very strongly. Like there's a high increase in people that speak English, because my parents, they didn't learn English in school, but I'm like, English is, I speak it at a C1 level, and my current university studies are being taught in English, so learning English is more and more common amongst the younger population.
Okay, so for the third question, in which aspects is English being used in your country? Is it commonly used in education, or business, or media?
Um,
Like in your social media account, Instagram or Twitter or anything, do you use English or maybe your native language?
I think primarily English. Like all of my social media, Instagram, I only follow English content creators.
Okay, so I'll move on to the next question. So, what benefits do you get from the usage of English?
I mean, I can communicate with people all over the world, and by knowing English, I met Elisa, your friend, and I mean, we both speak English, so that's how we got to this interview, and it widens your knowledge. Through globalization, English gives you like the opportunity to know so much more than just the stuff that's going on in your home country.
Okay, so for next question, how does English give a negative impact to your country?
I honestly, I don't know any aspect that like English gives a negative impact. I think English so far, like knowing English has only brought positive impacts and opportunities for us.
Okay, thank you for that. So for the next question, are there any words or phrase in your language that do not have a direct translation to English? If there is, could you provide me an example?
I think there are a lot of words, and Germans have many phrases, like common phrases that to us like make complete sense. But if you, for example, I'm trying to think of an example. I it's like the direct translation maybe would be, I think, you spider, or that sounds really weird, but it's just like when you would tell me like some fact and I think that's absolutely crazy. Like in German, I would say "Ich glaube, du spinnst" or something like that. And like there are a lot of similar phrases that in German like make sense to everybody in the whole country, but if you directly translate them into English or another language, I think you would think we are crazy.
Yeah, it's okay. Okay, so first this question. Do you often mix words from your language when speaking English? So in what situations do you mix language the most?
Um, I often mix words from my language with English. As I also already mentioned, I study in English, like my courses are being taught in English, and it's often very difficult to listen to my lectures in English and then talk to my friends in German, because it's like thinking in a bilingual way. You often mix words and like you're missing the word in German, then you're missing the word in English.
Yes.
It's very difficult. So I would say like university is the place where that happens the most. But it's also a lot of words in English that you can translate to German have been like officially pronounced as a German word. So like there are a lot of English words that everybody in the country uses because they're just now such a part of the language that they're officially a German word.
Yeah, I think we Malaysians also keep mixing the English and Malaysian words in one sentence. So yeah, obviously understandable. So for next question, are there English words that you considered offensive in your language? Can you give examples?
Um, I thought about it and I couldn't think of any words that we consider offensive. It's probably also because through media and movies and everything, we know how words are supposed to be perceived. Like if an American talks to us and they use phrases or words that aren't common in German, I think through media we already know how we are supposed to perceive it. And I think it's more often the other way that foreigners or English speakers consider German words inappropriate or rude just because of the way we talk.
Yeah, because actually, like we Malaysians, we also have something that offensive when we use that Malaysian words, but when in English it doesn't call it offensive, like such as fake. But in Malaysians, we call it babi, but that's considered as curse word in our country. So that is like
Oh, all right.
example. Yeah. Okay. So for the last question, does your language have slang that has been influenced by English? So can you provide some common slang words or phrases that you guys use in daily life conversation?
Um, I think there are a lot of slangs from English that we as Germans use, especially like the language amongst teenagers, like the I don't know, like there's a special word for for it in German, but just like the language that teenagers or young people use, and they use a lot of, I don't know if you could call it slangs, but just English words like cringe or weird or I don't know, stuff like that. Like that's just, even if they can't speak English, they still know those words.
Okay. So that's all for all questions. Thank you.
For the first question, how and when did English come into your country? According to the interviewee, English was introduced to Germany during the First and Second World Wars. This historical context suggests that interactions with English-speaking countries played a significant role in bringing the language to Germany. Additionally, she mentions that English and German share the same linguistic background, which makes the languages closely related. This is true as both languages belong to the Germanic language family, which makes English somewhat easier for Germans to learn. So for second question, the interview states that English is introduced early in German schools, typically by 3rd or 4th grade. This aligns with Germany's education system where English is the first foreign language taught. She also highlights a generational difference, explaining that her parents' generation did not learn English in school due to less exposure to the language. However, she observes that English has become more common among younger generations, showing that English proficiency has significantly increased over time. Based on the third question, the interviewee indicate that English is widely used in education, business, and media. So it is the first foreign language taught in German schools. Also, over 80% of university programs in Germany offer courses in English, showing its strong presence in higher education. For the third one, major German companies like BMW use English as their corporate language, which suggests its importance in the professional world. Lastly, in media and daily life, many Germans prefer watching movies in English, and several English words have been incorporated into German speech, such as meeting and update. For the third question, what benefits did she get from the usage of the English? So the interview believes that English enhances communication skills with people from other countries and expands knowledge about globalization. Additionally, it allows her to learn about events beyond her home country, making her more globally aware. So this reflects the broader trend of English as a global language that connects people across different nations. For the fourth question, how does English give a negative impact to your country? So my interviewee states that, in her opinion, English does not have a negative impact on Germany. This suggests that she views English as a beneficial and necessary language rather than a threat to German culture or identity. For the fifth question, the interviewer acknowledged that there are many German phrases that make sense to native speakers but not to the others. So she provides an example, such as ohrwurm, which translates to earworm in English, refers to a song or tune that gets stuck in one's head. But most of people misunderstand the meaning and they think that there is an actual worm in their ears. So this shows how some German words capture concepts that are not easily expressed in English. For the sixth questions, she explains that many English words have been officially recognized in German. This demonstrates how English has influenced the German language. She provides examples of commonly mixed words. For the first one, Handy, which means mobile phone in German. For the second one, downloaden, which means to download. These words show how English terms have been adapted into everyday German speech. Based on 7 questions, the interviewee believes that media exposure shapes perception, meaning that because of media and movies, Germans understand how English words are perceived in different contexts. She states that English speakers sometimes find German words inappropriate or rude due to the direct way Germans speak. This suggests that cultural differences in communication style may lead to misunderstandings between English and German speakers. Based on the 8 questions, the interviewee states that German teenagers use English slang words like cringe and slay. However, she notes that there is no special German words that directly replaces these terms. This highlights that how English slang has been integrated into youth culture in Germany, particularly among those who are exposed to English media and social trends.
Assalamualaikum and good day everyone. My name is Siti Nur Amira Nabila binti Abdul Aziz. ID number SEC 23070279. And let me introduce my interviewee. Her name is Munawara and she is a 21-year-old Indonesian who currently lives in Johor Bahru, Malaysia. Munawara works as a talented pastry chef, turning her passion for baking into a career. Coming from Indonesia, which is categorized as an expanding circle country in terms of English use, she continues to improve her language skills while working in a multicultural environment. Okay.
Go.
Hello, Nawa. Thank you for taking the time to join me today. I really appreciate it. So before we begin, let me introduce myself. My name is Amira and I am conducting this interview as part of my assignment. And for our discussion today is about the English language and how it is used in our country, but in your country to be specific. But before we get into the question, could you briefly introduce yourself? Maybe share your name, what you do, or anything else you want me to know about you?
So, hi Amira. So before I start to introduce myself, I would like to say thank you for this opportunity. I appreciate it a lot. And then my name is Nawa. You can call me Nawa. I am 21 years old. I'm going to turn 21 years old for this year. And also, I'm Indonesians that live in Johor Bahru. Yeah.
Oh, all right. So that's great. So let's move on to our main purpose today. So for my first question is how and when did English come to your country? Like for example, in Malaysia, English was introduced during British colonization. So what about yours?
So English language, the first time they came to Indonesia is back then when the colonial era from the Dutch, but then it was like really minimal that time. After Indonesia gained independence on 1945, it started to get maximized there. Like we use a lot of English words, English language to interact to others. Is because of the global interactions like business or educations and so on. Yeah.
I see. So it started when the Dutch colonization lah.
Yeah, correct.
All right. So let's move on to the second question, which is how does English develop in your country? Like, is it more common now compared to the past?
There's a lot of things that English did to my country, especially in education. Like we start with in a school and then higher education as universities, and other than that, like business, like international business, and also internet and social media. Mostly we use the English language so that it can be reached in a young generations in Indonesian. So like everyone can get through, can expose to English language easily these days. Mm-hmm.
I see. So, let's move on to the third question. So, in which aspect is English being used in your country? So, basically in Malaysia, for example, it is widely used in business, tourism, and education. What about your experience in Indonesia yourself? How is it
I
used?
think I think we have the common things also, like starting from the education, like the basic things is like we started with speaking, listening, writing and reading, and then especially for the tourism things, as like tour guide, when we want to communicate with foreigners, with outsiders, so we use English. So yeah, that's what um English can English do to the aspect in our countries. Other than that, media like arts, music, advertisement, and also like music, yeah, drama, everything's.
Hey, that's a good one. So let's move on to our next question.
Mhm.
What do you think the benefit you get from the usage of English in Indonesia? Like,
In
does it make communication easier with people from other countries?
if we talk about benefits, right? There's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
benefits that you can get by using by using a English language. I'm sorry. Um, I think for me, basically, personally, for me, English is like the first language in the world. Like everywhere you go, you can bring English with you. Even how suck your English are, everyone, everywhere can know English. So, um, so yeah, that's one of the biggest benefit that you can get if you are fluently in English, if you learning English. That's what I can say about it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I totally understand. So, how does vice versa, how does English give a negative impact to your country? Like, do you think English most likely affect your local language or culture in a bad way? Like, for example, today's people are using less of their mother tongue because they prefer English. So, what do you think about it?
Yeah, that is one of the negative effects also if we are too exposed to English language. So it get until it gets a barrier to two language.
Mm-mm.
So that one is kind of concerning. But then I don't have much things to say about negative effects on this, but I can give one point that most of Indonesian have started to do that. I think it's going to be culture shocks, like cultural influence. If we are too
Mm-hmm.
exposed to Western media or Western culture or norms, so I think it's going to be like potentially impacted to our Indonesian traditionals, and our practices, our perspectives. I can give you one example of what these days punya generations are doing. From what I can see, mostly now they tend to living together with their partner before
Mm.
marriage. So I can see that they got that things from the Western punya culture.
Yeah, I totally understand you about that because here in Malaysia too, mostly in KL people,
I
uh,
see.
they if you look closely here in KL, they rarely use Malay as their daily language, you know, mostly lah.
Oh,
But
I see.
yeah,
I see. I can see it. I can
so
feel it also.
so for the next question, this one is
Mhm.
more like y- your words or pronunciation in English but in Indonesia. So my question is, are there any word or phrases in your language that do not have a direct translation in English? Could you provide some examples? Like in Malay, the word menggelabah, right? The word menggelabah means panicking and being clumsy at the same time, but there is no exact word for it in English. So do you
Oh,
know
that's
any
for
words like this?
Malay.
Yeah. Do you know
Oh,
any
okay.
word like this in your language? In Indonesian maybe?
For Indonesians, I think there's plenty of it. Gemes. Do you know gemes?
Gem- Yeah, 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 I know.
Gemes, yeah. Example like, oh ini gemes banget, kayak kamu gemes banget gitu kan. These words, gemes words, is describe a feelings of being overwhelmed by something that are so cute and so adorable that might leads you to pinch it because it was so cute. So like yeah, gemes.
That's so cute.
Gemes. Yeah, other than that, there's one popular term. I think you know about this one. It
Mhm.
galau. Galau.
That's so
You know
popular
about
here.
galau? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Galau. So this word describes the feeling of being overwhelmed, like
Mhm.
distressed, or like mostly it's related to something romantic lah. Like after breakup. So aduh
Mhm.
galau banget deh gitu. Aduh galau, galau. Yeah, that words. I don't think it got the direct translation to English on this word.
That is so interesting, in my
Yeah,
opinion. So let's move on to the next question.
sure.
Do you often mix words from your language, Indonesian, when speaking English? If so, which words are commonly fixed? Commonly
Mm.
mixed, I'm sorry.
Okay, actually, I always mix and match all of the language like bahasa rojak. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
but then there's one thing yang I always use it. Nasi goreng. You know what? Indonesians are. It's not Indonesian when you say it like fried rice.
Mm-hmm.
Example like, oh, I just had a nasi goreng last night. There's none of Indonesians that would say, "Oh, I just had a fried rice last night." No, you are
I
not
see.
Indonesians then. You are Indonesian if you say that words is in nasi goreng terms, yeah. Other than that, maybe bule.
Mm-hmm.
You know bule?
Ulit?
Bule, Bule. Bule.
Bulit? Bulit?
Yeah.
No, I don't
Bule
know.
means foreigner.
Foreigner.
Yeah,
Oh, I
bule
see.
means
That's new
foreigner.
to me.
Yeah. So usually us as an Indonesian, right? We
Mm-hmm.
use that words like, oh, I just met bule last night. Oh, I just met bule just now gitu. So basically it means like I just met a foreigner just now.
I
So yeah,
see.
we use the words bule. Bule.
That's so interesting about Indonesian language.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yeah.
I've know that the word nasi goreng
Mm-hmm.
in Indonesia they call nasi goreng as nasgor. Is
Yeah,
it
and
right?
also in the Indonesians tends to love to short form of things. You know,
Yeah, I know about that.
it's like, yeah, it's like you say nasgor, or like baper, bawa
Oi,
perasaan, and then like mager, malas gerak, and then like curhat, curah perhatian, curah
I
perasaan,
just know
something
that
like that.
baper is bawa perasaan. Actually, I thought it was actually a word, but it's a
No.
combination of two words.
Yeah, it's the combinations. Yeah,
I
we love to
see.
short form things. I don't know why. Just like we love to short form things. We are like simple creature ever. Yeah,
Oh, that's so interesting. It makes me want to learn Indonesian
you
language, you
should.
know.
You should. You should.
So, we have come to our last question. So,
Mm,
for my last question is, does your language have slangs that have been influenced by English, and what are they? Like, if you are unsure, I give you some example. In Malaysia, we say tapau from
mm-hmm,
English, tap out to mean
mm-hmm,
takeaway food. So,
mm-hmm.
are there any slang words in your language that come from English?
Mm, what is it like? Mm, other than that, do you have any like example for it?
Maybe in Malaysia, I think the word terror, you know terror, like
Mm-hmm.
the word terror in English we call it as um something bad like terrorist, you know, like terror, something that kill thing, you know. But here in Malaysia we call it as if someone do a great thing like wow kau terror though, something like that. Is there
I see.
any Indonesian word that take a slang that have been influenced by English? If you
Have
got
been
any.
influenced by English. I don't know if this one is influenced by English words or not, but then we
Mm-hmm.
used to use this word like anjay.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's a
Okay.
for me. I don't think it's a bad terms though. It's just like a slang that that express your feelings towards everything.
Mm.
Macam like as in like kayak gimana ya? As in like oh anjay enak banget gitu kan. Anjay enak banget. Anjay cantik banget. Anjay. But
Mm.
we don't know what anjay means is. We also know. I also don't
Mm.
know. I as an Indonesian, I also don't know. But some of them say it was a bad word. Some of them say it's not a bad word. So I'm in a between. Like I'm a neutral team. So yeah,
I see.
that's
So
how
it's
I
not really
answer that.
influenced by English. It's not really,
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. Sorry.
but I do use anjay too. Yeah.
It just feels so nice, right? It just feels so great
Yeah.
to say anjay. Just like say anjay and then move on with your life.
All right. That's so interesting. I think after this, I think I want to learn Indonesian language at Duolingo, I guess.
Yeah, you should. You
So
should make
I think
friends.
that's all the question I have for
Ah,
you today. With
thank
that
you.
question
Okay.
just now, we come to the end. So thank you again for your time and for sharing your thought with me. Your insight are really helpful for my segment. So before we end, do you have any final thoughts or anything you'd like to add about the topic? Anything
Mm, I'm not prepared for this, but
about
then
English? Mm-hmm.
about English. So
Mm-mm.
I just hope everyone in Indonesia are more to open-minded about learning a new things, about exploring a new things, and not like staying stuck in the same positions because I can see Indonesia have a lot of potentials, but then they are like narrow-minded. Some of them, but then now, as the time passes, I can see Indonesians are starting to developing into bigger things. So yeah, I just hope that it can be like, how can I say this? Like, all I can say is I just hope Indonesia can be a better country, and then can improve their quality, because I can see they have the potential. It's just that some of them still stuck in their, their space, or
Comfort zone, yeah.
yeah, correct.
All right, so that's all from me today. I appreciate your time and I hope you have a really great day ahead.
Thank
So
you.
that's all. Thank you. Thank you so much. Bye.
For the first question, my interviewee explained that English was introduced to Indonesia during the Dutch colonial era. However, the use of English at that time was very minimal and it wasn't widely spoken or used in daily life. And after Indonesia gained independence, English started to gain more importance, especially for international interactions. The interviewee noted that English became a useful tool for business purposes, allowing Indonesians to communicate globally, and this shift marked the beginning of English becoming more prominent in Indonesia. And my analysis based on my interviewee response is English in Indonesia has a history rooted in colonialism, but its practical usage became significant only after independence. My interviewee highlighted that the language spread was mainly driven by economic and business needs rather than colonial influence that reflects a purposeful adaptation to globalization. For the second question, according to the interviewee, English was initially limited to schools, serving as a subject taught at the basic education level. Over time, its presence expanded into higher education, such as universities, where more advanced English skills are required. In recent years, the development of English has been influenced by social media. The interviewee mentioned that people are now more exposed to English through platforms like Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok, which has made the language more accessible and commonly used among Indonesians. And my analysis based on her response is the evolution of English in Indonesia shows a clear progression from formal education to informal exposure through social media. This shift highlights how technology and global connectivity have made English a more natural part of daily communication, especially among younger generation.
For question 3, my interviewee pointed out several key areas where English is used in Indonesia. The first is education, where English is taught in schools, covering speaking, listening, reading, and writing skills. For tourism, it serves as a tool for communication with foreigners, especially in tourist hotspots. And media and arts, where English is widely used in music, films, and advertisement, and other forms of arts. My analysis from her response is English in Indonesia functions as both a formal and informal language that bridge gaps in education, tourism, and media. Its presence in creative fields like arts and advertisement further solidifies its roles in everyday life, helping Indonesians connect with a global audience. For question 4, my interviewee believes that knowing English, even at a basic level, makes it easier to interact with people globally. Since English is widely spoken around the world, it acts as a common language that helps Indonesians communicate with others, especially in international settings. And my analysis based on this is the benefit of English in Indonesia aligns with its global status as a lingua franca. And the interviewee's perspective reflects a practical approach, seeing English as a tool for connection and communication even without complete fluency. For question number 4b, my interviewee doesn't see many direct negative effects, but she did mention culture shock as a significant issue where Indonesians are increasingly exposed to Western culture, often leading to shifts in value and behavior that don't align with local traditions. For example, she noted that some Indonesians adopt Western practices such as living together before marriage, which conflicts with traditional Indonesian values. And my analysis is the cultural impact of English is evident learn in Indonesia and not through the language itself, but through the Western media and norms that accompany it. The interviewee's observation highlights a common concern in many countries where global exposure leads to changes in social behavior and values.
As for question number 5, my interviewee shared 2 examples, which is gemes, a feeling of being overwhelmed by something extremely cute, and galau, a state of emotional stress often related to heartbreak. And she believed that these words don't have direct English translation that fully capture their meaning. And my analysis is, this example highlight the uniqueness of the Indonesian language, where certain emotions and experiences are captured in ways that English doesn't directly replicate. It showcases the cultural depth embedded in language and how translation can sometimes fall short of conveying specific feelings. For question number 6, my interviewee admits that she often mixes Indonesian with English, calling it as Bahasa Rojak, a term used for mixed language speech. And the example she gave, including, I just had a nasi goreng last night, the mixing English with the Indonesian term for fried rice, and I just made bulik just now, using bulik, which means foreigner in Indonesian. She also mentioned how Indonesians often use short forms like baper, bawa perasaan, meaning someone who's overly emotional, and mager as malas gerak, meaning too lazy to move. And my analysis based on this is code switching and language mixing are common in multilingual societies. The interviewee's example show how Indonesian comfortably blend languages that creates a unique form of communication that reflects cultural identity while incorporating English. For question number 7, my interviewee stated that there are not any English words that are inherently offensive in Indonesian except for direct place words. My analysis is, this suggests that Indonesians generally accept English vocabulary without significant cultural conflict, except when it comes to universally recognized offensive language. As for the last question, my interviewee was unsure about specific English influence slangs, but she did mention the term anjay, which is a slang word used to express emotion or excitement, and she clarified that while it's not offensive, it is commonly used in casual conversation. Assalamualaikum and good day everyone. So today we will be presenting compare and contrast the feature of English in the countries that we have been analyzed, which is Brunei, Mozambique and Kenya from the outer circle countries, and German and Indonesia from the expanding circle countries. So I am Siti Noor Amira Nabila, ID number SEC 23070279. My name is Nurkalisa Sophia binti Muhammad Yusuf. My ID number is SEC 23070042.
And I am Nur Izhani binti Ahmad Fairuz, SEC 23070241.
Miss Alia?
Sekejap weh, line aku slow. SEC2302.
Aku start balik ni?
Alia,
sorry
okey ke Alia?
Line aku
Tak. Sekarang okey tak? Dengar tak suara aku?
dengar.
Aku tak ingat tutup mic, biar ada.
Aku start dulu Alia.
Tak, tadi. Okey.
Assalamualaikum and good day everyone. So today we will be presenting compare and contrast the feature of English in the country that we have been analyzed, which is Brunei, Mozambique and Kenya from the outer circle countries, and Germany and Indonesia from the expanding circle countries. So my name is Siti Noor Amira Nabila, ID number SEC 23070279. My name is Nurkalisa Sophia binti Muhammad Yazid. My ID number is SEC 23070042.
I am Nur Izhani binti Ahmad Fairuz. My ID number is SEC 23070241.
I am Nishafi Halim binti Muhammad Azwan. ID number SEC 23070224.
And my name is Nur Imelda Jasrina binti Muhammad Zamani. Number ID SEC 23070212. So let's jump to the next question, which is, are there any words or phrases in your language that do not have direct translation in English? And we want to analyze the similarities for the outer circle, which is all three countries have native words or phrases that do not have direct English translation.
So, in casual conversations, people often blend native words with English, which creates an informal hybrid sentences.
The native phrases often reflect cultural emotions or expressions that do not translate directly into English.
As for the expanding countries, for German and Indonesia, both countries adopt English words into their native languages but adapt them to fit local grammar or pronunciation.
So both language, German and Indonesia, have native words or phrases that do not have exact English equivalents, often reflecting to cultural emotions or experiences.
Plus, mixing native language with English is popular in informal settings, especially in casual conversation and social media.
And for the differences, for the outer circle, every country use different type of language mixings. And for Brunei, they use Manglish that often involve direct translation or word repetition in informal speech.
Okay, for Kenya, they incorporate native Swahili expressions into English and focusing on emotional or cultural expressions.
While for Mozambique, they mix Portuguese with English and local language, which result to the blend of multiple language.
For expanding countries, for German, many English words are officially adopted into the German language but adapted to fit German grammar and pronunciation.
Whereas in Indonesia, English words are often informally mixed with Indonesian language in everyday conversation, which creates a casual blend without grammatical adaptation. Moving on.
So
We
for
go
the
to
next question, do you often mix words from your language when speaking English? If so, which words are commonly mixed? For the similarity, for the outer circle, in all these countries, people mix their native language with English when speaking casually, and both Kenya and Mozambique incorporating words from English and Portuguese.
So for expanding, both of these countries, German and Indonesia, use English by mixing it informally, but native languages remain dominant.
There are also short form words that all of these countries use, such as Indonesia. They use the word baper and mager. Moving on.
For the differences, in Brunei and Kenya, there are more code switching between English and the native languages in casual speech.
While Mozambique, they use Portuguese English that mix is common but not as structured as in Brunei or Kenya.
For expanding, Germany officially recognizes some English words, while Indonesians enjoy creating shortened slang.
From that, in Indonesia, they often shorten words and adapt them into their daily slang.
So in Germany, they officially recognize some English words, so they will modifying them to fit German structure.
So for the next question, the similarities that happens in outer circle, these countries use code mixing, which they blend English with native language.
Okay, so they use direct translation for words like macam in Brunei and ati in Kenya are used in similarly in local languages.
So these countries, which are Brunei, Kenya, and Mozambique, frequently use English slangs in daily speech.
As for expanding countries, both Germany and Indonesia frequently mix English into their daily speech, especially among the young people and in social media.
So for Germany, they use word like downloaden, which means to download, while Indonesia shortens phrases like mager, which means malas gerak, meaning lazy to move.
And for the differences in outer circle, in Brunei, they incorporated if you know, you know. That means yang tahu je tahu.
However, in Kenya, Nico Fiti directly borrowed from English where Fiti stands for fit to tell that someone is physically fit.
While Mozambique, the word bebe is borrowed from English, which is originally means baby, and it is clear that the spelling has been modified into their native language.
For expanding, in German, they will use the words such as cringe or slay. So most teenagers use this and know these words.
While in Indonesia, they use the word anjay to express their feelings toward everything.
So, thank you.
That's all from us. Thank you.
Yes.